Sunday afternoon edition of the Anaheim Calling Podcast. We are back to discuss two Ducks games. We did not do a pod Friday night where the Ducks took on the Vegas Golden Knights, lost that one 3-0. And the Ducks winning, though, today in a very, I would say, impressive fashion, 2-1 against the Colorado Avalanche. Colorado, who is vying for a playoff spot. But most importantly, we are here today to hold the very first Kevin Waugh fan club meeting in quite a long time.
It's been a while. It's the first one of 2019. I don't remember if there was ever any in 2018 either.
Kevin Waugh, now the official word is that he had a wrist tendon rupture.
Something like that.
Ruptured wrist tendon. That's a mouthful. But so and we saw it happen in training camp, and after missing the entire season, he is already back up with Anaheim, and he was immediately thrust onto a line with Ryan Getzlaf and Corey Perry, and I gotta say, he looked pretty good for a guy who hasn't really played the entire season.
Yeah, I think he looked perfectly fine. It seemed like he kind of built off exactly what he did last season, and I think he looked good with Getzlaf and Perry, provided kind of a different element to that line that we haven't really seen in a long time. And the Ducks broadcast crew made mention of that at various points in time, that he kind of provides something that this team doesn't fully have at all times. And
just guys who can make plays.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of exactly what he is. And he individually did a pretty decent job also tonight. He had a .19 individual expected goals. And so he had some chances, got himself into good spots. And
he probably could have scored a couple times.
Yeah.
That line was buzzing. I mean, we'll get into all of that. But before we do, let's just quickly run through Friday's game since we have not really had a chance to discuss it here. Like we talked about before the show, and I think that I mentioned this on Twitter on Friday, but the game against the Golden Knights was the perfect tank game because the Ducks played pretty well. The youngsters showed some promise, but they lost.
Yep. I mean, there's no other way of putting it. I mean, here, let's really quickly jump into some of the stats from that game. Give me 1 second on this, though. But overall, it was a good game from the Ducks. I think they played really well, to be honest. This is probably one of the better games that they've played in a while. They were able to keep pace with the Golden Knights in this game. And as you can see here, they were able to actually have a higher expected goals in all situations at the end of the game than the Golden Knights. If you look at kind of the scoring chances, where they're coming from, you're able to see that all the Ducks scoring chances were from right in front of the net. And the Golden Knights really were kind of from all over the place. And it was just one of those things that, I mean, it's the perfect tank game, like you said. The Ducks were able to get chances, get shots, weren't able to score because Marc-Andre Fleury played a pretty good game, and the Golden Knights were able to capitalize on their chances. So overall, solid. The Ducks played well. They didn't win. They helped the tank. And, yeah, I mean, Brandon Guhle had a pretty decent game, got beat defensively, but offensively created .36 individual expected goals. You look at kind of more so on the expected goals.
Ryan Kessler leading the way in individual expected goals.
Leading the way. And then you have pretty much everyone above 50% besides Richie, Grant, and Jones. And so overall, I think a pretty good game.
Absolutely. I mean, the Ducks had numerous shifts on the ice where they were just buzzing in Vegas' zone. And, once again, and this is a theme that will carry over into today's game, is that Max Jones and Troy Terry, it seems like they're just picking up steam every passing game. They do a little something that just gives you hope, I guess, of what can possibly come.
Yeah. I mean, I've told everyone how I feel about Troy Terry, and there were a couple plays in this game as we jump into the Colorado game that were just really, really nice plays that made me so excited. There was the one, I know where I'm getting ahead of myself, but there was the play where he kind of pulled the puck off the boards and kind of just cycled through the slot. And yes, he didn't get the shot off right away, but he was able to get the puck back after kind of whiffing on the shot, and he was able to end up getting the puck into a very dangerous spot.
Right, absolutely. So I had the great fortune of actually being at the game on Friday, thanks to listener and friend of the pod / Anaheim Calling editor / overall, just great, Bonnie. I got to sit closest I've ever sat at a hockey game, 5th row, and it was pretty awesome to see the play that close, and just a good view overall, right behind the visiting goal for 2 periods. So anyway, big shout out for that. That was a great experience. Now let's get into today's game, because this was a good one, and there's a lot of different things to kind of pick apart in this game. But let's just quickly go through the recap before we get into some overall impressions here. First goal of the game would come thanks to Jakob Silfverberg, who we heavily discussed this morning.
Yes.
We got to go up to LA and record at the K-Rock Studios with Chip on her Totally Offsides podcast. So big thank you for that. That was a lot of fun.
It was definitely it was definitely a good time.
We had a pretty long discussion about Silfverberg, as we've had many times on this show. And all that being said, he made his presence known pretty early in this game, not even 5 minutes into the first period. Comes down the right wing, loads up on his forehand, that patented shot of his, and just blows it by Philipp Grubauer, who I don't think necessarily should have let this goal in.
Probably not.
But it looked cool. It popped off the lid of the water bottle. So it wasn't the water bottle flying off. It was just the lid. And I've never seen a lid of the Gatorade bottle fly that high on a shot. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, the water bottle just pretty much exploded. I mean, Jakob Silfverberg broke it. I mean, it was actually in that like slotted thing in the back, and it's just you see something coming off top of it. And so I don't know if
I don't think he could hit that shot again if he
well,
tried.
The only thing that I'm thinking about is with the water bottle being there, is it as much of a big deal hitting the water bottle as it was when it was top of the net?
Yeah, I feel like that makes it more impressive, if anything, because when it's on top of the net, if you just hit the net, you'll get the pop-up effect, and then that'll move the bottle.
I don't know, because that means he's hitting center of the net. So it's more so that Grubauer played it bad.
Oh, right. Well, for Grubauer, I mean, all around, it's just a bad situation for him. But what I really wanted to point out on this goal is the play that led up to it, because as we've discussed time and time again on this show, it's not always the goal necessarily. It's what happens leading up to it. And Brendan Guhle made a really nice play in the neutral zone, jumping a pass from Alex Kerfoot, and then from there, just kind of moving the puck up ice, making a nice little chip pass to Silfverberg, who then takes it down and scores. So Guhle really flashing some maturity on both ends of the ice tonight. I mean, that play, it kind of sums up what I like about him as a player, is that he just always seems to know what and where and how he's supposed to make a play. He's just got a very good, I would say, on-ice judgment.
He has a high, as people would probably qualify, a high hockey IQ. He's able to identify the play, make the pass, and we're seeing him. We're seeing him kind of develop a little bit in front of our eyes. We're seeing some good games, some bad games from him, some good decision making, some bad decision making.
Yeah.
But he's 21, and he's showing a lot of promise with his ability to move the puck and his ability to jump into the play. And I'm really liking what I'm seeing so far. And the fact that he's providing this, and I know we're probably going to talk about this trade for a long time to come, because it's a pretty big one, actually, when you think about it. But getting him along with the first-round pick for Brandon Montour is an insanely good deal.
Yeah, I mean, I've been beating that drum now for the last week. Just the more I think about it, it's a really good trade for Anaheim, and the more I think about it, it's a pretty big gamble by the Sabres. I mean,
it is.
They're betting a lot on Brandon Montour there, and bless him. But one thing I did want to bring up here before we get into the rest of the recap. So far in just under 60 minutes of 5-on-5 time, Guhle and Fowler, 56.6 Corsi for percentage, 58.3 scoring chance percentage, and 56% high danger percentage on ice. So they're controlling play at a really good clip when those two are out there, and that's no small feat, because Fowler and Manson struggled pretty badly this season. So to see this pairing work out, obviously it's still an incredibly small sample, but it's encouraging.
I think what's interesting with this pairing working out is the fact that Fowler's playing the right side.
Yes.
Which I think
that is a very good point.
Because, like I mentioned a couple shows ago, Fowler was kind of very anti-playing his offside 4 or 5 years ago, and it was something that he had strictly mentioned as being something that was very difficult for him because he wasn't completely able to adjust to the space and adjust to kind of where everything was. And yeah, you're going to switch back and forth as games go on, but for the most part, you're going to end up on your side of the ice as you're bringing the puck out of the zone, and you get used to the reads, get used to all that stuff. And so it's an adjustment to switch to the other side because the board is on the opposite side of where it should be. You have open
you're just
space
on your backhand all the time.
Yeah, and so I think it's really impressive that they're doing this well with Fowler playing as offside and Guhle being a guy that, I mean, let's be real, he had kind of gotten surpassed within the Sabre system by a couple different guys.
Right. Well, and the thing is that it's not really. The more I think about it, the more I think that this is a good snag for Anaheim because yes, he did get surpassed in the depth chart in Buffalo, but if you look at the guys who are ahead of him, I mean, they're no bums out there. I mean, Lawrence Pilot has been really good in Rochester, and he's been really good in Buffalo, and then Rasmus Dahlin. I mean. So to be buried behind guys like that, it's not necessarily this big indictment of your ability as a player, which, again, I mean, I really want to talk to a Buffalo fan about this, but that just makes this trade all the more head-scratching. Although I guess maybe the logic is they needed a right-shot defenseman, and so they moved one of their best left-shot Ds and a first-rounder to address that need. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
That's going to be a weird one.
Should I throw out my crackpot trade theory that I mentioned on Totally Offside here?
Sure, go for it.
So, for those of you that saw the Bob Murray comments, and I mentioned this, and we probably got into it a little bit more on Totally Offsides than we're going to here, but Bob Murray kind of said, if you look at the team right now, it's not exactly going to make complete sense, and you basically kind of need to... you need to wait and see to get the full picture of what this team is going to be. It's not exactly a finished product right now with the moves that he's going to make. So, with that being said, you look at the rumors that were floating around the deadline, and the fact that Adam Henrique's name was being thrown around, and the team that was most linked to him or was being linked to him was Nashville. Nashville needs to clear salary this summer. There's no way around it, and pretty much. The most likely candidate to be moved out, and one name that's kind of been thrown around as a potential exit, or going to have a potential exit from Nashville this summer, is PK Subban. The Ducks need a right-handed defenseman. PK Subban is a right-handed defenseman. If the Ducks were to buy out, let's say, Ryan Kessler, and move Adam Henrique, even if they're taking a little bit more salary back for Subban, they are in a decent spot once they buy out Kessler cap-wise. That's something I've come to realize. They're dropping about $4 million in cap hit if they buy out Ryan Kessler, and that does help out significantly. There's a couple other things that they can do along the way to make their life a little bit easier. Maybe they move Cam Fowler to help out there, maybe, and bring up a Josh Maher if they're comfortable with the way Guhle's been developing. But you drop in Subban to this lineup, it instantly improves the team, and there's your right-hand defenseman.
Right. I mean, that is certainly looking a few moves ahead, but I mean, I don't think the Ducks are really embarking on a rebuild. I think they're retooling for now, maybe next season, and then from there, PK Subban, I believe he's 27, 28.
Yeah.
So he, if you pick him up, you're basically saying, well, we're still going for it. And just to confirm, he's 29. So. Man, that happened fast. Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway.
By the way, Chip's yelling at me in the Twitch chat that there's an S in Totally Offsides. So there you go, Chip. There you go.
It's the soccer fan in you.
Yeah. No, it's just me.
All right.
Yeah. Sure.
But so really maybe the most notable moment of the game, sadly, came in the second period where Ian Cole got a penalty for kneeing against Devin Shore, and then Cole was also given a game misconduct, so he would leave the game along with Shore, who trying to enter the offensive zone. I mean, it's kind of a perfect storm of bad angles where Cole is leading with his shoulder, but the knee is also extended. And then at the last second, Shore goes to kind of change directions, and Cole doesn't have enough time to adjust, collides knee to knee, and Shore goes absolutely flying, flips through the air. You can already see that he's in pain before he even hits the ground on the slow-mo replay. He would leave the game, and now it's being reported by Eric Stevens that He will undergo an MRI tomorrow to determine the extent of the injury. So that's his left knee, by the way. So that was a pretty brutal play.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was
what
no
did
bueno.
you think of the play?
Well, my first thought was I kind of wanted to see a couple different replays because what can usually happen on these types of plays is sometimes it's a late shift of position by the attacking forward, and if the defender kind of stays consistent and that shift of position kind of causes that knee-to-knee contact, it's not exactly on the defending player. You also have sometimes the guys shift, and then guys will stick out their knee to try to just get a piece of him. This kind of didn't feel like either of those. This felt like the knee was kind of out the whole time, and it was just kind of a really bad play from Ian Cole.
Yeah, I think it was just really unlucky. I mean, I don't know if it was. It didn't seem malicious to me. It didn't seem.
It felt like it felt a little reckless and mistimed. I think that's the best way to put it.
And I think that the penalty was appropriate. Now, do you expect any follow up to this?
I think honestly it depends on how bad Shore is hurt. Because at the end of the day, that does matter with suspensions.
He's already getting an MRI.
Yep.
So there's already cause for them to do that. Like you said, the injuries do factor in here. So I wouldn't expect him to get suspended, but I could see a fine.
Yep.
I think that would be my expectation.
Yep. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't really affect the Ducks either way, simply because they're not playing Colorado while Ian Cole is going to be out with injury. The Avalanche are kind of in a different spot where they're fighting for a playoff spot. So, I mean, we can talk about whether to be suspended or not, but at the end of the day, that doesn't really affect the Ducks. What affects the Ducks is kind of the impact of the hit on Devin Shore.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll just have to see because it looked pretty serious. Okay, but let's get through the second period. Cam Fowler would get on the board, so pretty good night for that pairing. I believe I don't think this was on the ensuing power play. They had a 5-minute power play as a result of the
it was not on it was prior to that.
Yes,
it was 2-0 at the time of the hit.
Right, exactly. Gets a shot through traffic, hits a stick, goes into the net. That makes it 2-0. Third period, Avalanche get a little more pressure. I would say that the third period, the Ducks didn't even really turtle, but you could feel that there was a push from the Avalanche to tie the game up. Although it should be noted that the Ducks did outchance them from high danger locations 7-3 in the third period. Man, this Avalanche team is weird. But Carl Soderberg would get it over to Derek Brassard, who's able to put it away. 2-1, Ducks are able to hold on and pull this one out. Now, after the game, just for a brief standings update here, so Colorado is still only 2 points out of the last wild card spot, and the Ducks are now just 3 points ahead of the LA Kings.
And
so
the Ducks also jumped the New Jersey Devils with this win.
Right. So, I mean, what are your takeaways from this game overall?
My takeaways are a couple things. The Ducks played a pretty good game. I mean, let me, as we've done for the last little bit, let me show some stats from this game. You can see from the heat map, the Ducks kind of had chances from all over. The Avalanche had some pretty good, high-quality chances. The Ducks kind of didn't really have a whole lot of those throughout, but they had the chances from kind of all over. And if you look, expected goals kind of ended up even on the night. And so it kind of felt like this was a game where maybe against Vegas, you can say they got a little bit unlucky not being able to score and getting shut out and having Vegas score as much against them. Tonight, you can maybe say they got a little bit lucky with how the game went.
Right.
And it was pretty much even in terms of chances and things like that. And the Ducks were able to score and get a bit lucky with Grubauer making a mistake probably on the Silverberg shot. So, yeah.
No, I thought that it was a good game, and I think that what was the most encouraging to me was that the performances kind of sprinkled throughout the lineup from different pieces that looking at this team long term, these are the guys that you want to see performing and showing positive indicators.
Yeah.
And so guys that I'm referring to here, I mean, again, Kevin Waugh looked good. I don't know if he's necessarily a key factor in this rebuild, but he looked good. I mean, if he can show anything here in the next couple of weeks, that could be a nice little kind of found money situation for the Ducks. And then, of course, Troy Terry, I thought, had one of his better games this season. I think that they are really starting to look for him on the power play on that right side. That's an area of the ice where he's had success in San Diego. And what I like about it is that I think there was on one play, he received the puck and he tried to get it over to Henrique. I think it was Henrique. Instead of shooting, kind of freezing the goalie and the defense, he then kind of leverages that to then get it over for a tap, and the puck got intercepted. But I like the thinking there that he's not just thinking as soon as he gets the puck, shoot, shoot, shoot. And so to me, that shows a comfort level, because I think earlier in the season he gets the puck in that spot and he just lets it fly, and that's not necessarily a bad call. But seeing that he made that decision, it shows that he's not necessarily desperate to get a shot off of any chance he gets.
Yeah. Here, there are two questions I think that are relevant in our Twitch chat right now. One from CMonkey001 said, "What did you think of Sprong on the first power play?" I thought Sprong looked good tonight. I thought he had a lot of jump in his step. I think he created chances. I mean, you look, I just had gone away from it, but I'll go back to it. Sprong was on the ice for 0.45 expected goals for, only 0.16 against. And
no, he had a really good game. I mean, I thought that he hasn't looked, because the thing with him is, he can shoot. Like, no one's ever going to question that. The problem with him is that there are games where it just feels like he's not moving his feet.
Yeah.
As basic as that sounds. And tonight he showed a lot more fight along the wall. I thought that he looked a lot more spry just in his movement, and I thought this was one of his better games. And again, he's also 21 years old.
Yep. And kind of adding into that, J_Maxi, or Max, sorry, however you pronounce it. Guhle, Sprong, Terry, Jones. Who is going to be the best 21-year-old currently on the Ducks? Who is the best 21-year-old currently on the Ducks? Who will be the best in the long run?
Wow, that's a great question.
That's a really good question.
Are they actually all 21?
They are all 21.
That's true. I think that of those, well, I know what you're going to say.
I think as of right this second, you might want to say Sprong is the best currently.
Mm-hmm.
I think long term, I mean, I gotta be biased and say Terry, but that's my bias coming in, and I know it's my bias coming in, and I can admit that.
I think right now the best is Brendan Guhle.
You think Guhle's better than Sprong?
I think right now he's just the most complete NHL player. I mean, he's already out there playing minutes, playing in all situations, and looking good doing it. Whereas Sprong, it's kind of like he's so reliant on his offense. He's not really much of a playmaker. I think among the forwards, Sprong is probably the most polished right now. But in the long run, who do I think will be the best? That's a really good question. I'm just gonna say Max Jones. I don't know. I mean, Max Jones also looked really good tonight.
Oh,
he had one. His hands have.
He was the lowest
I think
for expected goals for percentage on the Ducks.
What?
He was the lowest for expected goals for percentage. But granted, played with Kessler. Kessler played with Kessler.
He was playing with an anchor, so that's different. But he had moments, and he's had moments every game where, in a very restricted space, he can make a play by just deking a guy. And so I'm very curious to see how that will progress.
Well, and late in the game, he had a really good forecheck to really kind of keep the puck in the Avalanche zone with about less than 4 minutes left in the game, and really was able to kind of keep the puck and kind of just kill a little bit of time on that forecheck. And no, it wasn't a huge play. It didn't create a goal or anything like that, but those are the types of plays that you want to see from him. And that's, I think, one of the things that's been the most impressive thing with Max Jones over the span is his ability to get in on the forecheck and make something happen from it. Because a lot of times what we see sometimes from a forecheck, especially a younger guy that's just trying to get their body in there, they're going to try to just make a hit to make a hit. And it feels like he's making hits to try to separate the guy from the puck. And it seems like there's purpose to the forecheck, which is important. And that's what we're seeing from him.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm really curious to see what he becomes, because I feel like if he just stays what he is right now, he could be a fine depth player. But I think that there's a higher ceiling there as a goal scorer, because he could have easily scored a few goals by now.
Oh,
in his since being called up. I mean, even tonight he had some chances.
This feels like when Rickard Rakell was called up. I think it would have been the 2014-2015 season, and for whatever reason just could not buy a goal. Maybe it was 2013-2014. No, it was 14-15. And just couldn't buy a goal. Actually, no, going back, I think it was 13-14. I'm going to keep flip-flopping in my head. But could not buy a goal in his first 5-10 games, and eventually found the back of the net. But it wasn't one of those things of he's not scoring because he's bad. He's not scoring just because of a little bit of puck luck. And that's the thing when I'm evaluating prospects is when they're playing in the NHL is show me kind of a glimpse of what you can do and show me a glimpse of what you're going to be. Because at the end of the day, that is the most important thing for these kids right now, is showing me what you can do, because they're not going to have every single shift be dominant. That's just not realistic from a 21-year-old. They're still developing, still figuring out how to play in the NHL. They're going to need to learn to grow and different things like that and figure out how to score. And I think as long as they're doing the right things and really providing that jump, kind of making their impact felt, showing what skill level they have, that's what's important. Like that Troy Terry play. No, that ended up not resulting in a goal. It was a scoring chance, but you were able to see the skill that he has to be able to drag the puck across the neutral zone. And that was, even though completely different style of players and do it in a different way, that was a very Corey Perry in his prime-esque play, to kind of slowly slide across the neutral zone not across the neutral zone, slides through the slot and end up getting a pretty dangerous chance at the end of it all, and wait. And that's the type of play that you can see that from him, and doing that multiple times throughout a game, then he is going to be dangerous and be an impact player on this team long term.
Right. I mean, one thing to note is that Daniel Sprong turns 22 in 14 days.
That's fair.
So
he's the oldest.
I mean, he's certainly the oldest, but Max Jones literally just turned 21. His birthday is on February 17th. So, I mean, it's interesting, because you have to be a little encouraged watching these guys, because if they can even be decent players, again, that is such a win for the Ducks. Yeah. And Brendan Guhle also, he is born in July, so he's going to turn 22 this year as well. But still, I mean, it's encouraging. To me, it's like what we discussed earlier, kind of when the Ducks fired Randy Carlyle. What can we expect from the rest of the season? It's just keep tinkering with the lineup, keep seeing what the young guys can do, and that way you have a real good idea of kind of what moves to make this summer.
Yeah, and I think that we're starting to see that with these kids. And on that note, we should make mention that with Devin Shore being out, and also if Derek Grant and Nick Ritchie are not able to come back into the lineup, the Ducks will need to make another emergency recall to pull someone up. And so whether that is a winger, whether that is a center, we'll kind of see. You got to remember Carter Rowney is still on this roster, and so he can swap into the center role if they feel more comfortable to call up a winger. And I believe I was talking with John in our Slack chat, and he was kind of saying that he thinks maybe it's Kiefer Sherwood that might get the call up, because he's been good on the penalty kill down there, and especially if they're looking for a fourth liner. If they are looking for a center to take the spot that Shore had between Raquel and Silverberg, maybe they look at bringing up Sam Steele, or maybe it's a Kelly Kosala if they want to give him a look. But this does not count as one of their 4 call-ups. This would count as an emergency recall, because with Grant and Ritchie out and Shore out, they're underneath 12 forwards. They would be at 11 forwards. So they can do this without any implication in terms of those 4 call-ups.
Right. Right. I mean, it's going to be interesting and what they do the rest of the way, because Kiefer Sherwood has kind of flown under the radar ever since he's been sent back down. And I honestly haven't really monitored his progress down in San Diego, but for a guy who started off so hot for the Ducks, I wonder where he figures into their long-term plans.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this a little bit here and there, but it's almost as if bringing in Devin Shore was almost like bringing in another Kiefer Sherwood.
Right.
And maybe a worse version of Kiefer Sherwood, to be honest, also.
I mean, I don't know.
Are we being too hard on Shore?
Yeah, I think we've been a little hard on him. I mean, he's clearly just my issue with him is more that he just doesn't have any offensive upside, at least not that I can see.
Yeah.
But he is a lot bigger than Kiefer Sherwood. And I mean, he has attributes that you can say, okay, well, that could end up being useful to this team. But I think it's also fair to be critical, because like we mentioned earlier today, they did trade Andrew Cogliano for him. They did also trade him at his lowest possible value. But the hope would be that you get a guy who can at least come somewhere close to that at some point.
Yeah.
Anyway,
don't really have
do you want to jump into some questions here?
So let's jump into some questions. So people in the Twitch chat, if you have questions as we're going along, please throw them into the Twitch chat. I saw that there are a couple in the chat that we will get to, but start throwing some more in there for us. So for those of you listening or watching the recorded version, because as you probably know by now, this show is on YouTube also, and you can search us at Anaheim Calling SB Nation, and please like and subscribe to the channel. It helps out a lot. But on top of that, if you have Amazon Prime, the best way to support us is through Twitch Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free Twitch Prime subscription each and every month, and it helps out the show more than you can imagine. So if you do have that, please, it helps out a lot. And with that, you get a special emote in the chat. You get a special badge next to your name, and we will try to prioritize your question if there are a lot coming in. So Ken Pafu asks us, first off, can't they just magically heal Ondrej Kase? And kind of piggybacking off of that, does Ondrej Kase make a huge difference on this team next year? Because I feel like we talked about this a fair amount during the beginning of the season with the injuries and different things like that. We didn't think it would make a huge deal, but Ondrej Kase came back and instantly made this team better.
Right.
Is it somewhat
it's going to make a huge difference.
Isn't it somewhat a blessing in disguise that he is out right now? Because I could see this team, as we're talking about the tank and different things like that, and how it is definitely better that this team right now is when they lose, or it's better for this team to lose games than win games at this point in time. Mm-hmm. Ondrej Kase being hurt, yes, it's awful for him, and you don't ever want to see a guy get hurt. But it may be better for this Ducks team long-term that that's happened. In a similar way that allowing John Gibson just sit down and rest and kind of recuperate is better long-term for this team.
Mm-hmm. Right. First off, there's no way he's coming back this season just because of the nature of the injury. But, yeah, I think, unfortunately for him, but fortunately for the Ducks, I think that it works out because, when they're not playing horribly defensively and their guys are going up front, they can still compete with teams. I mean, they hit such a low point where they couldn't beat anyone but themselves. It seems like now, again, the Carlisle effect, it's crazy to see some of the differences with this team. I don't think that they've magically turned over a new leaf, but I do think that they have tightened up so much defensively. Just watching them, you don't see these just brutal lapses in judgment or attention span. I mean, it's really, and so you put that and you factor in an Ondrej Kase, and I mean, that would not be good for the tank at this point.
Yeah. Okay. So J_Max E said, if Anaheim takes a forward with their first pick, do you think they take best player available with the San Jose/St. Louis pick, or do they go for positional need and then in parentheses restock a defensive cupboard, for instance?
Yeah, I think that they're going to go best player available because what's kind of lacking in this prospect pool right now, and people are saying that it's a great pool, and it is. I mean, it's for what it is, it's a great pool. But what it's lacking is true blue chip talent. Can't miss, surefire prospect, right? And Terry Jones, all these guys are good, but you still can't really say that they're true blue chippers. And so they're guys who are going to develop season by season, right, and are eventually going to get there. But the Ducks need a guy who they can just draft, plug in and play. If he's not great his rookie year, he's going to be great his second year, right? A guy like that. And so I just think they have to go best player available. They can't mess around by saying, oh, we need a right side D. No, just get the best player available. And then the trickle-down effect is almost just as important as the player himself, because all of a sudden, you don't necessarily need Troy Terry to be a world beater. You don't need Max Jones to be an all-star. Now you need a little less of them, and that takes a little pressure off them as well.
Yeah. Agreed. So Kim Pafu says, if we indeed do get PK Subban, like my crackpot theory said, are we supposed to cheer when he spears players and tries to chop off people's thumb? I mean, we've cheered for Corey Perry throughout the years, who does that from time to time. So, I mean, when those type of players on your team, you're able to overlook those types of aspects to their game. So, yeah, that's kind of what I have for it. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Nah.
Seeing as you were a fan of a team that traded away PK Subban.
I mean, I'm a big fan of his, and I think he would make this team instantly a lot better.
So, Dark Purity says, are you sad that Ducks legend Michael Del Zotto is gone? No, never.
That pairing with him and Fowler was going pretty well.
Stop.
And now maybe Fowler has just turned a corner. because him and Guhle are also going well.
Stop. No, I'm very yes, I'm very happy that Michael Del Zotto is gone. That is a tenure that's gonna go down as a very odd thing in Ducks history. Who's more of an odd Duck, Michael Del Zotto or Max Lapierre?
I mean, I love Max Lapierre.
I mean, it's still
he
was on the Ducks for like 20 games. Who's the more odd Duck?
I mean, the odd thing about
that was prior to the Canucks run at the Cup. They traded him to the Canucks at the deadline.
The entire Michael Del Zotto saga is even weirder when you consider that they traded Luke Schenn, who they inexplicably signed as an unrestricted free agent over the summer. So this whole thing was just weird to begin with, and it never got any less weird. And now they have a 6th-round pick to show for it.
Yeah, they got a 6th-round pick for a 7th-round pick. Pretty much. Quack City 22 said, "Did Chip get a bunch of ringers for her podcast classic team?" We should probably make mention of the podcast classic at this point in time.
Yeah.
So on March 24th, there will be a second podcast classic, and as announced on Chip's Totally Offsides podcast, we have a trophy with a name. I don't remember it really off the top of my head. It's something along the lines of the annual, no wait, maybe monthly, who really cares, Jared Bowl Memorial Trophy for Cinnamon Toast Crunch, something along those lines. It's got something very elegant that Chip announced. So go check out Totally Offsides for the actual name of it. But that will be happening on March 24th, Sunday, March 24th, at noon at Lakewood Ice. So I don't know actually if our team is full yet. Please send a tweet to Anaheim Calling if you want to play. CJ is kind of running the team. So send him a message if you are looking for a spot. I don't know if it is full or not. But if you also want to come and just hang out, feel free to come and hang out. And the other thing on top of that is we have the Patreon watch party the day before that on March 23rd. And for those of you that are patrons, you already know where that is at. So please, if you want to come to the watch party, go check out patreon.com/acpod. And by becoming a patron, you have access to the watch party along with our Discord chat. And at $5 level, you also get access to all of our bonus episodes. So
absolutely, it's gonna be a lot of fun. We did the classic last year. It was a blast. So if we still have roster space, we'll be sure to put that out there.
Yeah, and Ken asked if they suck or if he sucks at playing hockey, or Ken Pafu asked, is he allowed? Yes. Send a tweet. We allow any skill level. We'll just get a bunch of ringers to make up for it, like Chad. Quack City 22, you're a ringer. So let me see.
There you go.
There are kind of two questions that kind of go hand in hand with each other here. One from Fish and one from Kempafu. Fish said, "Why do we suck at tanking?" And Kempafu said, "Are we bad fans for being sad that they won today?" So, I mean,
bad fan?
No, you're not. I mean, everyone's different. There's no right or wrong way to fan. I completely get why people want to watch their team win. Just on a personal level, I, at this point in time, cannot exactly feel that fuzzy feeling because I know it could hurt the team long term. I think there isn't really a bad way to be a fan right now. It's a weird situation. So, Quack City also said that Anaheim Calling patrons on the team are going to be hungover from the damn watch party. I mean,
no,
maybe that's the reason.
We'll be in bed at a reasonable hour.
Maybe that's the reason why Chip said that the game should be on the 24th.
Maybe.
I think Chip was plotting. Wait, but Chip's going to be... Wait. Chip's going to be at the watch party also.
I could see her trying to pull some tricks to get a win. That's fine.
She's still salty that we won the last game.
We won convincingly.
We won very convincingly.
It was just by one goal.
Our line, you, me, and Dan Elder took over the game.
Dude, I am pumped for that. Dan and I, beer league line mates, reunited on the frozen surface.
Yeah.
I am pretty pumped.
And everyone, Felix.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. I mean,
Felix now has his own skates.
Go ahead.
Felix now has his own skates.
I have my own skates. I have my own equipment. I mean, look out. Look out. I'm easily going to surpass my production from last year.
You no longer have to use my extra gear.
Your pants that are like 5 sizes too big.
Hey,
even you.
Hey. Calm down there. Settle down there.
I don't know why you bought XLs.
They're not. They were mediums.
Really? They were gigantic. Jesus.
That's just how hockey pants are, Mr. Roller Player.
Should we wrap this thing up?
I think it's time to wrap this thing up. I feel like we've hit it. LAFC's game is starting in 25 minutes, and I want to watch that. It's a season opener. If for those of you watching this, I am wearing my LAFC kit.
Well, on that note, folks, thanks a lot for tuning in today. We really do appreciate it. I hope you understand with our combined pod here. It was a lot of fun to break down two, I would say, games that are encouraging for the Ducks long term. But as usual, make sure to check us out on the Apple Podcast app. Leave a rating and a review if you've been enjoying the show. Jake already mentioned it, but I'm going to repeat it. Check out patreon.com/acpod. $5 a month gets you 2 bonus episodes, as well as access to our Discord chat. You also get to go to the watch party. So make sure to go check that out. And then, of course, we're on Twitter. Jake is on there at ReindeerGames91. I'm on Twitter at Felix_Sicard. That will do it for us today, guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and we will talk to you at the next game.
Bye.